Okay, everybody. Today we're going to talk about chapter 5 and security chapter, and I have divided this chapter into 3 parts. And today we're going to talk about part 1. So, in the part 1, we have 2 agenda items. Firstly, definition of cybercrime. We'll talk about cybercrime and types of cybercrime. We'll discuss that. Secondly, we'll define cyber attacks, and we will discuss different types of cyber attacks as well, the types of cyber attacks and the definition of cyber attack. So let's start with the first agenda item, which is basically the definition of cybercrime. So cybercrime, as the name suggests, cyber means computer. So any crime in which computer is the object of the crime. Computer is the object of the crime, or you can say computer is used, or computer has been used to commit a crime. A crime is called cybercrime. So any crime in which computer has been used, or you can say where the computer is the object of crime. Now, cyber crimes can be of 2 types. There are mainly 2 types of cyber crimes. It's basically from application perspective. One of the type of the cyber crime is called single event. Second is called ongoing series of events. So single event is something which is like accidental, or you can say just a single attack. It's a single attack. Sometimes it is just the accidental, or you can say it's not basically a well-planned attack. For example, user unknowingly, or you can say, for example, accidentally downloads a Trojan, or maybe a virus, something like that, etc. While ongoing series of events are basically well-planned attack. Ongoing series mean, for example, series of attacks, like one after another. So there are 2 types of cybercrime. It could be single event, or it could be ongoing series of event, or you can say multiple attacks, in fact. Next is the types of cyber attacks. Types of cyber crimes. So there are mainly 5 types of cyber crimes. A cyber crime can be, for example, a cyber espionage, which is just like, for example, spy. For example, it could be internet scams. It could be information theft. For example, another one is the data corruption or data modification, or it could be the cyber bullying. Now, cyberbullying is basically something harassing or harming people via IT or with computer. So harassing, or you can say harassing or harming a person or group of people via IT or networks is called cyberbullying. And again, cyberbullying is as punishable, or you can say it has the same, we have the same laws, same punishers and all that stuff for the cyber crimes. Next is the malware. Malware is a short form for malicious software. So if you see, mal is taken from malicious, while ware is taken from software. So the full form for malware is malicious software. So malicious software is basically, it is designed to do following things. Like it is designed to steal information. Other than that, it can destroy data. It is designed to, for example, incapacitate networks or computers, or it could be, just to frustrate the user. So these are the different intentions in order to design, or behind designing a malware. A malware can be of many types, and again, this malware, to commit a crime, we use malware, or attackers, they actually use malware. So types of malware, there are mainly 3 types of malware. The most common type of malware, we will talk about it in our part 2. It is called virus. Second type of malware is the worms, and third type of malware is Trojans. We'll talk about all of them in detail in our part 2. Viruses are basically the most common term that we actually use with the malware. Some people, they confuse malware with the viruses, in fact. Then the second agenda is the cyber attack. So let's define a cyber attack, and then I'll give you a complete definition, or you can say the types of the cyber attack. So cyber attack is basically malicious use of computer code. Now, malicious use of computer code is basically designing a virus, malware, or something like that. So malicious use of computer code to disrupt, or you can say modify, normal computer operations. So malicious use of computer code to disrupt or modify the normal computer operation is known as cyber attack. Now, there are many examples of cyber attack. For example, one of the type of cyber attack is phishing and farming. These are social engineering. We'll talk about it today. Second type of the cyber attack is spamming or spam and spoofing, impersonation. Third is the spyware. We'll talk about it today. The fourth one is the Trojans and viruses. We'll discuss that in the next class. Fifth one is the ID theft, identity theft. And the sixth one, which is again very important and most common, is known as denial of service and DDoS attack. So denial of service, DDoS stand for denial of service, and distributed denial of service attack. So let's start with the DOS attack first, which is again easy to launch, easy to understand as well. So first is the DOS attack. Let's start with the first one, DOS attack. DOS, it stands for denial of service. Denial of service mean when you can say a website denies to entertain a legitimate user. For example, just understand it with example. For example, this is a website, okay, running on this web server. So let's say this is a website which is running on this server. So this particular website, it can handle, let's say, 1,000 queries or users per second. Like if 1,000 people, they try to access this website, so website will be up, they can easily access the contents of website. But for example, if there is a user and he's, for example, attacker, and let's say if he's pushing, for example, 3,000 queries per second. So website can handle only 1,000 user or 1,000 queries per second. If 3,000 queries are coming from a specific user, what's going to happen? It will cause the website can freeze. It could crash, or it could restart, in fact. So there are many things which could happen. So this type of attack is called denial of service attack. So the definition of denial of service attack will become overload, or you can say overwhelm a system or a computer to prevent legitimate users from gaining access. So legitimate users, they cannot access, like in order to make the resources unavailable for legitimate user. If attacker overwhelm a system, it's called DOS attack. The DOS attack can be avoided, for example, if you use a firewall down here and start blocking this particular user. So DOS attack can be avoided. But there is a slightly more lethal type of DOS attack, which is called DDoS attack. And DDoS stands for distributed denial of service. So distributed denial of service attack, as name suggests, if DOS attack is launched from multiple points, it is called DDoS attack. So if DOS attack is launched from multiple points or multiple locations, it is called DDoS attack. So just imagine, like, rather than attack is coming from one source, if attack actually start coming from 3,000 different users, so then it is called DDoS attack, and it is always hard to avoid the DDoS attack. In order to launch a DDoS attack, attackers usually to launch a DDoS attack, attacker uses the concept of zombies. And zombies are basically, let me write down definition for zombie. So zombies are basically a computer overtaken by attacker, or you can say a computer controlled by hacker. Another definition which is important to understand, and that is basically a computer zombie is a computer which attacker can access remotely and use as a launching point or launching pad to launch the attacks, launch DOS attack or some other attacks. So basically zombies are a computer. It's just like a regular computer, but it is a computer used by, or you can say which is basically controlled by a hacker. That's a zombie computer. Another very important term which is close by to zombie, it is called botnet. And botnet is basically network of zombies. Or you can say networks of computers controlled by a hacker. That is called botnet. So to launch a DOS attack, attackers usually what they do, they actually use this the concept of the botnet or zombies, and then launch the DOS attack. Let's coming back to our malicious software. So the next in the row is the Rootkit. And Rootkit is something kind of a new kind of a malware which is becoming it is becoming really common and very common nowadays. In fact, the main reason is Rootkit. For example, if you have a Rootkit in your computer, please remember one thing: Rootkit can never be deleted. You cannot take off or delete the Rootkit even with a good antivirus. Rootkit, what exactly it hides itself within operating system files. It hides itself within operating system files and gets triggered each time you boot computer. So each time whenever you boot your computer, it gets triggered. Moreover, it hides the existing virus. So for example, it's kind of facilitator of existing viruses. So for example, if there is any malware, virus, worm in your computer, Rootkit will actually try to hide it from being detected. Other than that, there are three more things Rootkit actually does. Number one, it installs rogue files. Secondly, Rootkit also create backdoors to let the bad traffic in. Number three, it also delete files from the computer. That's basically what a Rootkit in fact does. Now, it's something to important to note down how to diagnose a hacked system. So for example, how you can make sure that I have a virus running in my computer and all that. So how to diagnose a hacked system. So basically there are three main symptoms of a virus. Let's say if you have a virus or your computer has been hacked. So there are three main symptoms. First of all, you should see actually a fake antivirus messages. If you start seeing the fake antivirus messages, probably your computer has been hacked. Secondly, applications run by their own. Thirdly, random pop-up messages. Random pop-up messages, you will see some advertisement or something like that, these kind of pop-up messages. In order to actually get rid of the viruses, you need to do one thing: restart computer in safe mode and then run antivirus. Another way is if you restart the computer, disconnect with internet and then run the antivirus. That's another very good way to avoid these kind of rootkits and all. Next is the packet sniffer. Packet sniffer. I'm actually going, I'm following the PowerPoint slide. So if you, see the PowerPoint, you will see the same pattern. So next is packet sniffer. I'll show you the demonstration of packet sniffer Wireshark in our lab. But packet sniffer is basically a specialized software. It's a specialized software, or you can say hardware. Specialized software hardware that captures packets transmitted over the network. So packet sniffers are basically, it's not only it's not necessary that packet sniffer are used by the bad people. Packet sniffer can be legitimate packet sniffer, and legitimate packet sniffer are used by network administrator for routine examination of network, routine network examination, or problem detection. While the unauthorized packet sniffers, are basically used in, like, you can say unauthorized packet sniffer are basically to steal information. These are used in order to steal some information or data. Next is the spam filter. Spam is something, as you can say, spam is basically unwanted emails, and most of the time these spams are the carriers for viruses and all, also known as UBE. So please remember UBE, solicited bulk emails. So unwanted email or unsolicited bulk email, it's also known as spam. And to avoid the spam, we use spam filters that prevent the user's inbox from spams, unwanted emails. Okay. So next is the phishing. Phishing is basically tricking the people over email. Like you might have received email like from fake banks or something like that, maybe fake emails which pretend to be, appears to came from, let's say, Microsoft. Maybe we have detected unusual activity and stuff like that. So phishing is basically tricking people over emails. Tricking people over email is called phishing. And what basically it's phishing emails look, what email looks like. So the message appears to come from a legitimate institute. So it appears to be appears to come from a legitimate institute and claims like they want you to do some activities so they can actually get your classified information or some confidential data. So phishing can be, for example, if you receive any phishing email, there are the three things that you can do. Number one, if you receive a phishing email, you can do mainly three things. Number one, drag and drop phishing email into new message and send it to phishing _report at USCERT. It's United States Community Emergency Response State.gov. Second is you can actually forward, copy and forward header of the email to CERT, like again by sending the email to this email account. Or the third idea is you can actually, if you couldn't forward it, if you couldn't forward the email, then at least send, or you can say forward the URL, uniform resource locator of the phishing email to CERT. Okay, so they can actually take some actions, or they can block that particular URL as well. A very close term to phishing, or very close concept of phishing is called farming. Farming is basically similar to phishing. It's a type of phishing where attackers, they actually install, they want you to click something. Once you click that particular link, maybe a virus could be installed in your computer, and attacker can actually start stealing the data from your system. So farming is basically a type of phishing. It's a type of phishing that seeks to obtain personal information through malware inserted or installed on victim's computer. So for example, if you feel like you are the victim of farming or phishing, then you can do two things. Number one, firstly, you can contact to USCERT, which I already talked about. Or you can do one thing, you can contact to the institution, the message was allegedly sent from. So these are the two things that you can do if you think you are the victim of pharming. Next, another term which some people confuse with the viruses and all that, it's called online nuisances. Online nuisances are usually, these are just to frustrate the user, just to annoy the user rather than stealing something. So online nuisances are spams usually, but it could be spyware. It could be spyware which is somehow dangerous. It could be spoofing, or it could be phishing as well. So as far as if it is a spam, then of course it is not a crime. But if it becomes like spyware, where they're stealing something, spoofing, or phishing, then it would be, of course, a criminal activity or cybercrime. There is another software which is again kind of hacking one. I'll show you this particular software in our online session called spyware. Spyware is basically a software that collects information about your internet surfing habits and behavior, like what kind of things attract you and all that kind of things. Other than that, they also spyware can also copy or steal your keystrokes. They can also copy password. Maybe you heard about some keyloggers or keystroke loggers. They actually steal the keystrokes, password, and some confidential data as well. The last thing for today is the adware, which is also known as advertisement software. And adware is basically, it's a software that collects users' web browser history. So basically, main idea is to copy user web browser history to create unsolicited, targeted pop-up advertisements. So basically the main intention is to copy your web browser history, so see what kind of things you are looking for, and then they will start targeting or sending you out the pop-up advertisements. Please remember one thing very important: adware and spams are not cybercrime, These are not criminal activities. We will continue our lecture from here, part 2, where we'll discuss cookies, type of cookies, and then we'll discuss viruses, worms, and some other stuff.